That's what you're supposed to do at the VP debate, is to, defend your candidate. And I think you saw him do that, vigorously. And I think if he hadn't done that, the question you all would be asking me is, why didn't he do that?
Was this interrupting actually, or wasn't this the format of this debate for there to be more of a back and forth?
Well, and that's a really important point. As you know, in this debate, it was 2 minutes each in the top, and then 5 minutes of discussion. So some of that back and forth that you saw, that was actually part of the discussion period. That's a fair point.
Do you think that Mr. Kaine, Senator Kaine, did help Senator Clinton in the race?
Absolutely. Because, again, the Trump campaign said that one of their goals tonight was to change the dynamics of the race. They had a terrible week. He had a terrible performance at the debate, and I don't think they succeeded in doing that at all. What we're talking about, and I think what we will be talking about in the next few days, is why is it that Mike Pence cannot seem to defend his running mate without lying or simply running away from him?
Robby, what's the reaction of the Clinton campaign today to the news story about Trump buying his steel and aluminum from China?
Look, this is part of a pattern of behavior on the part of Donald Trump, where he says one thing and does another. We heard him talk about outsourcing and jobs moving overseas in the first debate. When we look at his record, it turns out that his suits, his ties, his furniture were outsourced to 12 countries around the world. Now we find out when he had a chance to buy American steel, he said no and went overseas. Because this is what Donald Trump always does. He does what's in the best interest of Donald Trump to make more money, to become more famous, and working people in this country simply can't trust him to stand up for them.
General thoughts about tonight, how it went?
I think it went very well. I think that Tim Kaine laid out the specific policies that Hillary has put forward to try to build an economy that's going to work for everyone, not just the people at the top. He was very strong on the national security side, and he challenged Mike Pence to defend Donald Trump and the hateful things that he said in this campaign, the policies he's taken, and time again, Mike Pence ducked. He wouldn't defend Donald Trump. I think Mr. Pence's performance, he was smooth, but he walked away from the top of the ticket.
How do you think it went?
I thought that working people are not fooled, that Pence is clearly unable to defend Trump. And we've known that, and I thought it was an amazing punch and counterpunch, and finally we have somebody in Tim Kaine that's standing up for the things that matter most to us in our lives, and so it was clear to me that Tim Kaine won this debate hands down.
Is it also clear to you, seems to be some consensus that Mike Pence really didn't take a very outspoken opportunity to defend his running mate? He kind of played it safe.
Absolutely. I think that's exactly what happened in point after point after point, where he was unwilling to defend Donald Trump after repeated attempts by Kaine to have him answer on jobs, taxes, the economy, foreign policy, immigration. It was astounding to me.
Yeah. Mary Kay Henry, SEIU, thank you. Senator, some of the Republicans in the room are saying that Tim Kaine's interruptions justify Donald Trump's interruptions in the last debate. Is there a difference between the two?
They were different kinds of debates. This was a conversation format after the first few minutes, and they both interrupted each other in this debate, whereas in the other debate, it was a very different scenario.
Reverend Jesse Jackson with us.
So Kaine won hands down because he was the most prepared. He was as prepared relative to Pence as Hillary was relative to Donald Trump. Secondly, he defended Hillary every time she was attacked. Pence offered no defense of Trump. Trump was accused of investing in Russia and China. He offered no defense of his candidate relative to ethnic slurs and Bertha racist accusations relative to President Obama. Offered no defense of that. Muslims offered no defense. So he left Trump's back uncovered.
How do you feel about Tim Kaine invoking the civil rights movement here, the desegregation movement in Moden High School? What impact do you think that will have, that he actually called that out in his opening statement?
Well, because Kaine has a civil rights background as a civil rights lawyer. He felt free to talk about social justice, and that's one of his attributes. He can speak to, I've seen him speak to multicultural audiences, multiracial audiences. He does so with aplomb and with comfort.
The Republicans are suggesting that Elaine was biased, and at the same time that Kaine was very rude and disrespectful. What is your response to those two bipolar charges that are completely contradictory, but they're making them?
I'm just waiting for them to also somehow say that Governor Pence's microphone was broken too, and then we'd have the perfect trifecta. You know, give me a break. Mike Pence is an honorable man. I understand why he doesn't want to defend some of the more outrageous comments that Donald Trump has made.
Yeah.
That's understandable. But don't then, after the fact, try to cry foul.
Yeah. What's your assessment of tonight?
I think that Mike Pence did a good job defending the Mike Pence brand. I don't think that he came here tonight to defend Donald Trump. And in many cases, he directly contradicted things Donald Trump has said, whether it's on Russia or said sort of easily fact-checkable things that aren't true, like on the foundation, the Clinton Foundation versus Trump's. So I think this was Pence being about Pence. I thought Kaine was very aggressive. And we'll see. I think the base of the Democratic Party probably loved it, and we will see what happens. I don't think it's going to change many minds, though.
Mike Pence did a phenomenal job tonight, really broke the contrast between the two campaigns. And I think there was no question whether it came to on substance, on style, on every aspect. Tim Kaine did a really good job. Mike Pence did a really good job. You had Tim Kaine coming into this debate, who had previously been really well known as a great debater from his gubernatorial run to his Senate run. He was rattled tonight. He interrupted Donald Trump Mike Pence 64 times. I think he thought he was going to come in tonight, throw a bunch of one-liners, throw him off his game, and sort of ride to the win. He got met with a head-on with substance and issues and solutions that he was not ready for.
They're making the case that Pence did not stand up for Donald Trump. What's your response to that?
As the former governor of Virginia, I believe there's been too much insults on both sides in this campaign. That's not the way that I've ever campaigned. And frankly, I didn't think Tim Kaine defended all the insults that Hillary Clinton says. Remember, Hillary Clinton actually condemned many, many Americans she presumes to be the president of by calling them deplorable. Tim Kaine never responded to that. All he did was once again shouted down Pence. I just don't think that's any way to actually reach the American people with any kind of cogent argument.
That's a significant statement you just made. You wouldn't campaign that way. Are you actually saying that some of the language Donald Trump has used in reference to Mexicans and even his Twitter storm against the young lady who was Miss Universe, are you saying that that's something you don't?
Yeah, I would not do those things. When I was running for president, I didn't do those things, and I think it's a distraction. Yeah. I don't think it does him any good, that kind of thing, because it's a distraction from the real strong case here. And the real strong case is that we are not growing as a country. We are not growing. The growth rate in this country is 2%, and that means hundreds of thousands of people under and unemployed. That's the reality of what we have to be talking about. The rest of the stuff is noise, and we ought not to be focusing on it.
Reaction to the debate now. How do you think your candidate did?
Well, it's no surprise. I thought he did great. I think it is a tribute to Donald Trump that he would pick somebody of Mike Pence's caliber. I think the American people saw in Mike a great governing partner. I mean, Donald Trump is somebody who's been trying to shake up Washington from the outside. Mike Pence has been trying to shake it up from the inside. I think Mike Pence laid out the case for the three main issues in this campaign. Number one, the economy's not working for working people. And Hillary Clinton represents the status quo, and she wants to double down on it. Mike Pence made the case that we're not, when you put your children and grandchildren to bed at night, they're not living in a safer America. And part of it has to do with because Hillary Clinton's the author of this disastrous Clinton-Obama foreign policy. And then last but not least, he made the case it's not a fair America when the Washington elite live by one set of rules, like the Clintons, and everybody else lives by another set of rules. But in Mike Pence, they saw somebody who's from the heartland. He speaks from the heart. He has integrity. He knows the policies. I just think it was a wonderful moment for him. And frankly, Tim Kaine, I think, just had too much coffee. He was throwing so many reckless charges. The American people couldn't keep up with it. And for him to say on a national television that America is safer today than it was 8 years ago, nobody believes that. He just sounded silly, and I think he had a tough job tonight.
Some conservatives have been a little slow in coming in terms of supporting Donald Trump. Where do you think any of their fears or concerns were allayed tonight, especially when, and again, Democrats are making the accusation that Pence really didn't defend Trump's behavior when it comes to what some people consider some of the insults.
Yeah.
And we know that there are some conservatives who don't feel great about that. That's one of the reasons they're kind of.
That's right.
They feel like that's not a very dignified expression, if you will. What do you think about that? Is that being addressed?
Look, I think what tonight did was vindicated Donald Trump's thinking in picking Mike Pence, and it demonstrates that Donald Trump understands that he's going to have a conservative administration, and he needs to surround himself with people who come from that movement and who understand it. I don't think you can fault Mike Pence for trying to get back to the economy, national security, and a broken Washington. And the problem is in a debate, if you spend too much time answering all the questions that put you on defense, I think he answered them, but he answered them quickly, and he moved to the central themes again. And I think voters want to hear these two. Now, they can decide which plan is better. Obviously, I like the Republican plan better. But if we're not talking about the economy, and we're not talking about national security and our fight against Islamic terrorism, and if we're not talking about the fact that somehow Washington has not been addressing these major questions, then, I think the voters are going to get more frustrated with the politicians. And, Hillary Clinton has one way to win, and it's not talking about those things. She wants to talk about other things. She wants to try to make the case that somehow this ticket is not in a moral position to assume the presidency. I think that's a very tricky road. I don't like being called a deplorable. I don't like being called a hater. I don't think a lot of Americans like that. I think that she ought to take the fight to him, but she ought to take it on the issues. And she ought to explain why her tax plan's better, while she'll put more Americans to work, while she has a plan to defeat ISIS and defeat these terrorists. And you don't hear that much about that. And what you heard from Tim Kaine tonight, it's one thing to be an attack dog, and sometimes vice presidential candidates are supposed to be, but a yippy little attack dog that won't listen, I don't think is going to be very effective, and I don't think it's a very good tryout to be the president of the United States.
I thought they both did a good job. Obviously, I'm biased, so I thought Pence did a better job. I've listened to your comments, and obviously you don't agree, and that's cool. But I thought Kaine's response on faith was really very powerful. It's the first time I thought in the whole debate that he actually sounded like Tim Kaine that everybody kind of knows. And I thought Pence did a very good job on that answer as well.
As a woman working for the campaign, how do you feel about Donald Trump's expressions toward Alicia Machado?
Well, I think as a Latina even, not just as a woman, she's an embarrassment, to be honest, to the community. I don't think the way that she has behaved, for instance, she was accused of driving, never charged, but accused of driving a getaway car in what appears to have been a murder in Venezuela. Then a judge in Venezuela said that she had called him and threatened to have him killed. As a Latina, I work so hard to overcome stereotypes that she, to me, is quite frankly an embarrassment to the Latina community. It's a shame Hillary Clinton chose to try to use a woman with such a dubious past as a victim. I don't think she's a victim whatsoever, and I don't think she should be in the public sphere in any kind of role model positioning as they tried to position her as somebody who's anti-bullying. Quite the contrary. Like I said, this is someone who a judge says she wanted to, or she planned, threatened to have him killed. So she's not a role model, and I feel badly for the Hillary Clinton campaign that they even tried or didn't vet this woman and tried to interject her as some sort of poster girl for women.
Aren't you concerned, or even if you feel that way about her, aren't you concerned the way this is perceived by women and Latinas in general, as if it could be perceived as an attack on all Latinas?
No, because Latina voters are far smarter than that. And we're thinking, you know what? Who's the candidate that will help me have a better job? Who's the candidate that's going to stop the trade deals that are killing my job or my husband's job? And who's the candidate that has a record, unlike Hillary Clinton, of really elevating women in the workplace? Let's not forget that Donald Trump, his chief lawyer in the 1980s, which is almost unheard of in the 1980s, okay, we're going really far back, was a woman. The chief contractor at Trump Tower was a woman. So he has a tremendous pro-women record. His two daughters are a testament to that as well. And I think Latina voters are smarter than to think, oh, well, this beauty queen that's accused of threatening to have a federal judge killed, if you insult her, there goes my vote. Come on. Latinas, we're smarter than that. We're better than that.